Hi, friends. How are you? Thank you. And apologies for the little delay. But we're just going to make sure we give that much time after. Thank you so much. We're recording this presentation. Today is Friday, August. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this. 6. Hi, Jen. How are you?
Hi, I'm awesome. Leo season, what's not to love?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said it's Leo season, what's not to love?
Oh, yay. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah,
Was that what was it? Cancer? Yeah, no.
it was cancer,
Yeah,
too much. Yeah.
we like this one better.
Yeah, we
Um,
do.
so anyhow, thank you. And oh my gosh, I need to set up the other camera, but we're super excited that you guys are back. We can't wait to talk to you later when we do the feedback critique and see how you've been. If you're watching us from the future, thank you for joining us. And this is a very exciting theme and series. And I picked one of the images from the Olympics that I love so much. And here we go. I'm just gonna show you essentially in 1 second. Let me see. Okay. So this is the one that I picked, and we're gonna start sketching right now. But yeah, I just love the story of this Olympian, and she was on the news as we were doing the presentation yesterday, and we were talking about some Olympic images could fit this idea of accidental renaissance, which I absolutely love this expression. Um, this just came to my mind. So yesterday, after we presented the series, I checked the news, and then the Olympic Committee stopped the investigation of her protesting during the award ceremony. Apparently, in the Olympic playbook or whatever, because that's in that institution, it's riddled with corruption and stuff that it's not really great. But anyhow, in their book, it says that you cannot protest during this ceremony, and she did. So they started an investigation. But yesterday, her mother died, and the Olympic Committee decided to stop or pause the investigation. And she made a beautiful statement that made me cry. And so yeah, there's no question and no doubt that this is what's going to happen today, and that's what I'm going to do. I was surprised. That's one of the reasons why I was so late, because I just was waiting, and I thought that someone was going to pick this image right away. So I waited way too long, and there we go. But anyhow, so I'm going to start sketching, and a couple of things. My format, 12 by 16, rectangle, oriented in landscape orientation. I was debating between um, portrait and landscape. Portrait would have given me more of focal point of the figure, but then I thought, there's this image. The reason why it's very Renaissance like, it's because of the dark background, the emptiness, the audience. There's something that I find dramatic in the lonely figure with not a very exciting expression, with some audience. I think there's a real audience in the back. So I decided to just make the audience part of the narrative, um, and decide, think about it. You don't have to start sketching right away. There's a reason why we start with format, and we go down what kind of format, orientation, shape, and size we're going to get. And that is because composition is extremely important. And we talked during the presentation about one of the reasons, or one of the stylistic features or criteria that people use to decide the armchair art historians, which I love that expression also. I can't believe we came in this accidental renaissance so late. How is that possible? I don't know. We should have been, we're always sort of like on the cutting edge of movements, but it's like 7 or 8 years and we're just like, it's happening right now. There's an article in the Washington Post that says there's a reason why we've had so many accidental Renaissance images coming out of the previous um, presidency. There was maybe not a conscious intention, but there was a subconscious intention to, on one side, represent events in a historical way, and on the side of the press to actually just give an ominous um, look about the things that went down last year, essentially. But anyhow, so I'm just gonna use my yardstick, and then two important things right now. Both of them pertain to composition. One is focal points. If you chose an image that has more than a focal point, then find out how many focal points or important focal points you're going to have. And then the second thing that's very important here, it's the compositional movement. It doesn't matter if you've painted with us since day one. You have to look at the edges of your format and see how close things may be, and make sure that the composition that you get is actually not accidental, using the same expression, not accidental, that it's intentional, because there is a tendency, oh, there's a spider on my paper. There's a tendency, that's a good sign, right? Yes, it's good luck. So thank you, little spider. How a Renaissance, I mean, it couldn't be any more, it's right here. So, anyhow, so yeah, compositional movement. The tendency is to just make the images look off frame. There's nothing more indicative of not having control of your painting than having something with a lot of negative space when you didn't intend to. So just have that in mind. Just have that in mind. So that's the top. I'm going to do the top of the head right here. I also, it's just too bad that the Olympics this year, they just got diluted among all the crazy things that have been happening. I think, every time every time the Olympics come, and there's always an opportunity to hear, not only to see and be amazed about the human body and the expression of the human body, but also the narratives. So this year, I don't know, for some reason, there hasn't been, I think like the audience, the ratings like plummeted. People love to use the word plummeted this year, apparently. So I'm just gonna set the image right in the middle. So look what I'm doing. I'm just not doing anything recognizable. And I spend like 10 minutes. And you cannot tell anything from here. But why am I doing this? Because I wanna make sure that I get what I want. And what I want is to just have this in the middle, because I want the focal point right there. And I also want to make sure, that's why I lined the photograph at the bottom. I want to make sure that I have enough space on top, a little bit. Too close, it becomes, the edge becomes a magnet, and then it looks a little bit strange. And you just never know. You just never know when this painting is going to be shown. I'm not, I have sort of like a pessimistic take sometimes, because we are artists, but the truth is that you don't know when this painting and where it's going to be shown. You want to make sure that you do this work thinking that there's a chance that you just don't know. This will be collected, and this will be shown, and this will be appreciated. And yes, so just make sure that you have that in mind. So I don't have any references for this. How about I'm just gonna use a yardstick. So here we go. I'm just gonna actually just literally measure with a ruler. How about that? And then I'll just, whoa, this is like a really complicated composition. Okay, I'm just giving myself some, I'm just gonna do the main silhouette. Let's do the main silhouette and then I can start measuring. Okay, so nothing inside, nothing inside. I'm gonna do the main silhouette and that's gonna be it for now because I wanna make sure that I capture the expression of the body. And that's one of the reasons why we put figure. Here we go, just making one axis line in the middle of the figure because I just wanna find out, yeah, I wanna find that out. The actual separation between angles, breaking points, curvature. So this, if I don't pay attention to this, everything will be very monolithic, totem-like. But I just want to make sure that I get some of the breaking lines and also forearm and biceps and shoulders and the head is sunk. So all right, so that's going to be a challenge. And then, so here I go. I'm just going to take this opportunity to just measure the armpit by alignment. It's just right here. Okay, I got it. I'm working on silhouette and I don't care. I mean, I'm going to take more time than just one session to do this because I feel this is a really special image. I mean, yesterday there were some news also. I love these stories. There was a Filipino athlete, and she's American, by the way. And she has an incredible story behind her that it's heartbreaking. And yeah, anyhow. But there was a Filipino athlete, I get goosebumps, that won a medal. I don't know if gold or silver. I don't care. Who cares? I mean, I don't care. Some people just count the goals, US versus China. I think they beat us in gold medals, but the US got more medals altogether. But anyhow, so after the ceremony, I'm so sorry. And I think the sport was some sort of fighting. Jen and I were just having a silly laugh on Tuesday because
Oh yeah.
like Sesame Street conversation.
I think everyone can relate though. Tell them, Leo.
So we don't know the sports that we're talking about. So there's this whole beat around the bush conversation about naming the sport when we have no idea. So her sport is just throwing a ball, which is not, I mean, there has a different name, right? And then you mentioned something.
Yes, and I told this story to Carl, and he was like, "Oh, shot put."
Oh my gosh! Of course, I mean, he needs to know. Obviously, that's.
No, he doesn't though. He was laughing with me because he knows like how difficult all this is. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
What was your side of the story?
So the sport was the hurdles, and I was like, the running and the jumping over the thing. Leo was like, yeah, got it immediately. But we both laughed because we don't know the names, but the minute that you describe it in any sort of way, everyone's like, yeah. No, I got it. Yeah.
It's all sort of like reduced to jumping, running, throwing, and that's it.
Yes.
So the Filipino competition was something related to fighting. It was a fighting, I don't know exactly which category, but it was fighting. And she won, I think she won the gold. And I think Philippines didn't win in a very long time. And she dedicated the medal to the LGBTQ community in Philippines and internationally. I don't know I don't know her exact words, but I think it's pretty nuts. And I don't know how open and tolerant Philippines is with this. I have no idea. But in my judgmental mind, I thought, wow, you know, she's coming forward and dedicating. I mean, it wasn't nationalistic. It's just a country that it's not on the news for being very accepting of human rights. I mean, I'm totally being obviously judgmental, but for her to point out, and after I don't think they won a gold medal in a very long time. For her, in a very historic moment, to say something like that, I was like, geez, that's just amazing. And again, I just forgot. I don't know. All right, so I'm just gonna continue. Sorry for the little tangent, but yeah, I was just mentioning that one of the great things about the Olympics is just the human narrative. And speaking of Renaissance and accidental Renaissance, one of the things that makes the images, or one of the reasons why the armchair art historians that have no clue about art history, but they just learn art history through the photographs. One of the things that they say is that they are looking for a narrative, and it has to be a narrative that feels universal enough to connect an emotion beyond languages and barriers and borders and stuff like that. So for her to use the cross sign and then say that it's the place where minorities cross or oppressed people cross or something like that. It's the convergence or the place where everyone who feels oppressed meet. So she tried to make this a universal, I just get like to a universal sign for everyone everywhere who doesn't feel that, you know, that it's, I mean, come on. I mean, seriously, how I would just give her a gold medal for that. You know, and she got a lot of bullying and crap online, even after her mom passed away. And she made an incredible statement, very measured, measured meaning, you know, I don't know. So, okay, so let me just continue, and then I'm gonna spend some time, I don't care how long, I'm gonna spend some time with the actual silhouette. I'm just gonna spend some time with the actual silhouette. Well, another thing that I just wanted to say is that we have this idea of Renaissance painting, and then that this should be Renaissance-like. And then I feel like there's an added pressure that this should look absolutely spectacular. But let's just try to bring in elements that we could incorporate with our own style. So I think that's also very important, because the idea is not to paint like Leonardo da Vinci, because you know that would be the end of our career, because I would just throw the brushes down the hill. But let's just try to incorporate things that we can identify, and incorporate them with our own style. And I think that's the key. Yeah, I think that's okay.
Julio, the clown portrait that you did, that I now own proudly.
Yes.
That definitely has a Rembrandt. Yeah, that has a.
Oh my gosh, Jen. Yes.
We should look at it.
Yeah, that is totally accidental Renaissance. Good call.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's a good call. All right, so I'm just kind of like doing some structural lines already. And I think, it's half an hour, but minus a few minutes earlier. So I'm just gonna, I'm sorry, minus a few minutes because we started later. So I'm not gonna do any details inside. I'm just gonna continue because I feel like that's something that's just gonna give me a solid path. I'm gonna continue with the silhouette. And I just, I want to bring up, we put an image of El Greco, the disrobing of Christ. El Greco, a Spanish painter, I think Spanish Baroque, I'm not sure of the date, but it should be 16th century, maybe. I think it's 16th century. And it depends on which art historian you read. Some people like to concentrate Renaissance between, I think, the 14th and the 16th century, or the 14th, yeah, the 14th and 16th. Some people expand it all the way to the 17th and even the 18th century because of the neoclassical influences. Some art historians believe that there is actually no Renaissance. It's just an extension of the Middle Ages. So there are a lot of very interesting opinions about when the Renaissance happened and how long it lasted. I find that really interesting and fascinating. And studying, I had like a really, my gosh, I had a really interesting art or history teacher in high school. I remember her. She would, I would say she was really good because I remember that she was very articulate and proficient and tough. She was really tough. But there was something about art history that I had difficulty with. And I feel like maybe I see history now through a lens that echoes what I experienced when I studied or when they presented history to me. I had always a difficulty to put things in a timeline. I never knew what was the Baroque compared to the Renaissance, which one came first, which one was after, and I still have difficulty to kind of like pinpoint what period comes first, I don't know. Why am I saying this? Oh, no, just because it's nice to see that depending on the scholar, you find different opinions about when things started and when they continued and what were the reasons. And so everyone pretty much agrees that the Renaissance started in Florence, in the Italian states, and Florence being the most important one. And I don't know, I have been to Florence a couple of times. Yeah, if you haven't, oh my God, that sounds so awful. Just put it on your list because it's just an amazing place for an artist. And you can just tell, I don't know exactly what happened there at that time, but obviously it was amazing. Anyhow. I'm just gonna continue. Hi! Hi, Lois. We're so excited. Yay.
Hi, Lois.
Oh, we've missed you guys. I know you've all been traveling and doing things. So it's nice to see familiar faces. So thank you. Anyhow, so yeah, I don't know about Italians. Let's kind of like not make it all great because I have an issue with Italians. Sorry, but Florence is beautiful. Oh, I'm sorry. So anyhow, so I'm just continuing, and then I'm just yeah, I'm just making sure. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack and mention El Greco and the image that we put of the Trump supporters losing, and then El Greco nearby. It's not an image that we discovered. There's an author, I think the author of the Washington Post article brought up similarities between images that feel very important during the last decade and comparisons with Renaissance paintings. But El Greco was an interesting artist that I had. It was his work was on my radar in art school because it doesn't fit the idea of perfect proportions and perfect color and perfect brushstrokes. There's something about El Greco's painting that is so not conventional. Everything's like stretched and distorted and dysmorphed, and I love that. So my point is that going back to incorporating things to our own style, we're not trying to make Renaissance paintings. We are going to pinpoint things that we could use to incorporate in our style. And one of the first things connecting everything, El Greco, art history, Renaissance, and where we are right now, it's perhaps including distortion or exaggeration with the sketch that you're doing right now, or if you're painting. So don't feel like this needs to look like the quintessential Renaissance artist, Leonardo. No. So I'm thinking of this kind of like a really exaggerated hands of El Greco and figures. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm not going to, okay, I'm gonna leave the hands, and I think I'm getting you know, I'm just gonna start washing. I'm gonna remove the accessory lines. I think this could be a good place. And so, yeah. I just think this is the most, I mean, the Olympics end this Sunday, by the way. So that's going to be the closing ceremony. So we still have a few days that may just provide or give us some interesting Renaissance, accidental Renaissance, kind of like images of these athletes. Who knows? But in my book, this is the most beautiful image of the entire Olympic Games, if you ask me. I just love this. And I hope she doesn't get penalized or whatever for this, but who cares? It was interesting to read. So her alias name is the Hulk. And I thought, you know, it's one of those things that you get the name when you're young and then it sticks with it. I'm not sure if I wasn't sure if she was happy about this name or not. But on social media, she has a Twitter account, and then she puts her first name and then Hulk and then her last name. So she's embraced that name. I'm just gonna do this. And I haven't even checked why she dyed her hair green and purple. But maybe there is some sort of reason why. I'll find out. Okay, so I'm just ready to wash this. And okay, I'm gonna get my brushes. I'm gonna use maybe gray. I'm gonna use the gray, no, the chromatic black, and the umber. So another thing that we talked about, and of course, it's not gonna happen on every single photograph, every single accidental Renaissance photograph that we have put together or that you'll find. By the way, so we did a little bit of a search on, first of all, on Reddit. Reddit, it's an interesting place to find things because it's interesting, but sometimes you find these communities that are totally bonkers. But there are pages, Pinterest pages about accidental Renaissance. There are Instagram hashtag accidental Renaissance, and it's hilarious if you go on Instagram and you put accidental Renaissance. There are a certain number of armchair art historians that they need to take a class because they put accidental Renaissance to things that have absolutely nothing to do with Renaissance or painting whatsoever. It's just so crazy and funny. But anyhow, we talked about composition and we talked about lighting. Composition, we said that the images represent chaos. Some of the contemporary photographs that we have seen under this category are domestic images of parents with kids or pets that portray a scene like it's a complete chaos, chaotic, things happening. Each of the figures is doing or expressing a different emotion within the same time. And we said that composition and Renaissance painting is able to capture the order within the chaos. So the images look like they're completely random, but they're very carefully arranged. So yeah, composition is very important. But then the other thing that we said was lighting as a major form or source of inspiration for these armchair art historians. I'm going to use this brush. I don't know, it just happened to be here, so I'll just use this. And lighting, we just decided to, we didn't decide. Actually, there are some images, some articles online that they just give you tips, advice on how to create a photograph that looks accidental, like an accidental Renaissance photograph. And one of the articles actually was, we feel it was written by someone who actually knew a little bit about painting. Okay. And it just divided the lighting into two categories, sfumato and chiaroscuro. So right now I'm staining. Let me just go back to our method after the sketch. I didn't even, I shaded a little bit. Yes, I did. I should just find out the light direction because I think that's important for perhaps the chiaroscuro effect that I may just attempt. But I'm just moving from dry to wet. I'm starting my staining phase or chapter. I'm using a neutral tone, darker to lighter. Color fields is the synonym of staining. A consistency of the paint very thin. You want to make sure that you cover all the blank spaces, and you're going to lose a little bit of definition, but we're going to be able to retrieve it when we do the first notes. So there you go. So that's the thing. And yeah, we just went through the last few months of the Accidental Renaissance Reddit page. And on Reddit, you can vote the post, and then they're arranged in a way that the most voted is on top. So it's pretty easy because you can see the strongest images. And yeah. I'll tell you my usage of Reddit, my recent uses of Reddit actually, because I sometimes some users of Reddit, what they do and what it's mostly used by people, um, they use their pages as a way to aggregate articles. So that means that if you choose a theme, then depending on the user that you choose, you're going to see the user selecting articles related to the theme. And that could be good and that could be bad, because Reddit is a source of like conspiracy theories, of course. I think they just try to purge all these crazy things that were happening. But precisely during the first or the second wave of COVID, I just checked some data and scientific stuff from an account on Reddit, and it was a great, easy, fast way to see the most updated information on COVID. Yeah, sorry. So I'm just gonna get. So that's the most recent use that I got from this website. So I'm just gonna continue. And it's very niche, should I say niche based? So yeah, just people go there. A lot of articles about things that are happening, trends, and stuff happens there. And I noticed that some of the articles that I read later on the Washington Post or other reliable media or news, I consider the Washington Post reliable. I don't know. They refer to Reddit a lot. So that's a source of information for other journalists. I mean, I remember the series that we did of the fridge, people just posting pictures of their fridges and then asking people to describe them or describe their personality. It was on Reddit. I don't know I think that thing still goes on there. There was an article recently about, I'm getting a little bit on tangent here, but I read a couple of articles about how there is a trend about Stoicism, this philosophical movement that now has a resurgence. It's not a good thing. I'm just going to tell you that. So a lot of people are reading Stoic books and books about Stoicism, and it's not a good thing because some of these people are labeled incels. So this is hypertoxic masculinity, and they are finding literature in Stoic documents and books. And so there are a lot of contemporary philosophers that are talking about this recently. It's not a good thing, I'm telling you right now. But there were some articles out there saying that Stoicism is having a renaissance. Yeah, unfortunately. And it's all tied up with this hypermasculinity movement. Anyhow, I'm just going to continue and then maybe just focus on what's important right here, which is my wash. And thinking of El Greco. And yeah, I find it fun to see photographs. And then it was nice to go back a few months and realize how many of the images that we've used in the past for certain collections of paintings, they were actually pretty accidental renaissance. Like the ones we used for the protests in the summer of 2020, those are totally Renaissance-like. We didn't do any collection of paintings, but some images of healthcare workers and some images of morgue trucks outside of hospitals. And so if you think back, these are very dramatic images that could fit into this category. It's really interesting. I find it just very interesting. And some people mentioned that we are going to see more and more of this, you know, oceans filled with plastic, for example. That's very pretty much, or whales dying. That's very dramatic as well. So reminds me of paintings of cities in ruins, if you think of it. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna get some, I need to build my palette, believe it or not, but I'm just gonna use raw umber. And I'm still doing my staining. I'm not gonna do the color. Should I do the colors? I have some blue here, so maybe I'll just do some blue and gray. This is like my palette from the Swan, actually. So there you go. I also love the sunflower, the image of the sunflower. Let's just do it right. I'll bring the colors. There's something about the bouquet of flowers, delicate and innocent, and there's such a narrative contrast against her face. You know, it's just so interesting. It's just so interesting. She doesn't look like she's either protesting. She doesn't look like she's angry. She doesn't look like she's happy. And yet her posture or her expression is so powerful. Like that. I like contrast, you know, narrative contrast, and that's very Renaissance-like. Narrative contrast. Figures or expressions that are a bit oblivious, and then expressions that are completely representation of pain. And I'm going to bring some pink. And also very important, because that's something that I experienced as a kid. Religious paintings, I think maybe 20th century, or no, I mean even older, religious paintings in Spain, they're not Renaissance-like, they're Baroque, Spanish Baroque. And some historians make a point, we mentioned it, and saying that, you know, the term Renaissance, it's a misnomer. It's not exactly correct, because some of the criteria that these armchair art historians use has more to do with Baroque, Italian Baroque and Spanish Baroque. My favorite is Spanish Baroque, by the way, because they went nuts with suffering and pain and stuff like that. The Italian was a little bit more stylistically fancy, but the Spanish Baroque painters just went all the way. I think there's also Dutch Baroque. I should know this, but there's definitely, yeah, I think there is such a thing. I'm not sure. All right, I'm just gonna bring some white right here. Let's do it. And I'm still concentrating on wash, staining. So, and I'm doing darker to lighter. So I added a few notes of this washed out gray, or rather chromatic black. And then I'm just adding those whites. Yeah, I was just mentioning that first art I was exposed to as a kid were uh, pseudo versions or pseudo Baroque paintings or Baroque inspired paintings in churches, which I thought it was terrifying. And it just was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I was just not ready for it. But at the same time, I found them beautiful and very erotic, I should say, some of them. So, yeah. Glorifying the glorification of suffering, you know, that's so Catholic. Um, but it's interesting because so Kian grew up. It wasn't a Muslim practicing household because they were not. They're pretty much secular up to this point. But it's funny that he loves Baroque-like art. So, which makes me wonder and think that there's something beyond my experience that appeals to other people, meaning, you know, the beauty of those paintings that goes beyond religious beliefs, I guess. My take, I don't know. But yeah, he loves this kind of stuff. Um, yeah, the other day we went to a state sale of all places to get our fix for old stuff. And he got uh, Jesus without the cross. And I said, what are you doing? I love this. A carved Jesus. It wasn't very expensive and it wasn't very old, but it has this infatuation. So now that we're doing this, it makes me think, you know what? You know, there's something about going beyond the religious aspect, perhaps. Because again, he grew up in a secular Muslim household. Go figure. Just continuing with this, I'm gonna bring some blue. Let's just kind of like start blocking out maybe. And I'm not right now. I'm not using any chiaroscuro or sfumato or anything like that. I'm just in a very foundational stage, very foundational stage, and just covering. Essentially, I'm just covering blank spaces. And I'm not going to bring green, but I'm going to use blue and yellow ochre to create a version of green for the hair. I think that's good. And also I'll apply it to the sunflowers. Something about raising her arms with the pretty bouquet. I like that. Reminds me also of the sunflowers. The sunflower series that we did. I love that painting. Okay, and I'll use also just yellow ochre for the sunflower. So totally messy and not studied or perfectly studied. This will look different in a little bit or in a while. I don't care. So happy you guys are doing this. This is good. Some blue there. Okay, just piecing together some puzzle bits. And now I have burnt sienna, so I'm just gonna go. Oh, and also on, when was it? I think it was Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday. So on Wednesday, I just went to the Getty actually to check. So we got the approval for the private access. for the private road, we're gonna be able to access the Getty. Jen and I access the Getty through a private road, and I just wanted to check out the grounds before we go there. And Jen, I know you've been there. The bougainvilleas, Jen, are fried. So
Oh no, you're kidding.
I mean, they still look beautiful, but the photos that you took, yeah, they're nothing like it.
Bummer, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just tells you that the season is over, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if you, because apparently they designed the garden in a way that blooms all the time, but the best weeks to see the garden are the first weeks of August of the entire year. Were there a lot of blooms around at the bottom terrace?
I don't know. I didn't really spend that much time down there.
Okay.
I kind of walked around the perimeter of the main like circular area in the center, like the garden. But I didn't really get down into it. But it felt really lush. From what I remember.
Okay.
But dang, that's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's not what you had. It's not what you had, definitely. So I don't know.
There's still so much though, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was just gonna say a couple of things. It's just actually pretty ridiculous because they have a policy. Yeah. If they have a plant and the plant doesn't really bloom or do something spectacular, they just take it out. So they're like, it's not like a sherry-scaping or whatever that's called, and desert plants, and it just has to bloom. I mean, they have the hysteria season is way over. Wisteria, I'm sorry, wisteria, right? Yes. I mean, they're essentially all dried. Oh, they have a blooming wisteria down there. I was like, what? It feels like it doesn't feel real. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of blooms, but the wisteria season is way over, and they have one there. Dahlias. Wow. I mean, it's just like really spectacular.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Feels right.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I know. I guess, yeah. But you're right. No exhibitions, so there were a lot of people in the garden actually, and some of the galleries. I went to some of the galleries, but it's a different experience, right? You had the same experience, Jen, when you went.
I did. Yeah, it was a little disappointing, but I mean, for what we've all been through, like it makes sense, that there wouldn't be a lot, I guess, happening. But yeah.
Yeah, I wonder when the next exhibit's gonna be, the temporary exhibit. Yeah. But I saw the Artemisia or Artemisia painting. That must have cost a lot of money to purchase. Okay, so I'm gonna call this staining, I'm gonna call it now. So I think I'm happy with what's happening right now. So I was able to just fill up all the spaces. I was able to give a little bit of a high and low. And I think I'm done, and time-wise, 1 hour. How about that? So I think I'm okay. I'm not gonna rush it, but I feel like it makes sense that I spend more time just because I wanted to take care of the drawing. I think that was very important to find out, and I see things now that I want to change, but I think the image, I have it in my mind, I have images of El Greco, but I also chose this image because I have in my mind images of the San Sebastian, the naked dude with hands, always like super erotic. then they could do it with hands tied up behind a tree or on top of crisscrossing. So this gives me San Sebastian vibes. And those paintings, the figure, the human figure, it is completely distorted. It's just exaggerated. It's stretched. The distances between navels and pubic area are ridiculous. Thighs are always augmented. There's all this bulging stuff going on. There wasn't a very, let me correct myself. There was knowledge of anatomy, and one of the people who actually studied and initiated the study of anatomy applied to art was precisely Leonardo da Vinci. So all those Italian and Spanish Baroque painters that came after, they did have knowledge of anatomy. So you could see that there's a jump between before Renaissance, which there was no knowledge of human anatomy, and people kind of like interpreted the body in the way they thought it would look like. And then how anatomy really impacted art. So they still distorted and stretched and disfigured some of the figures represented. But yeah, there was a certainly different approach. Anyhow, so I just wanted to make sure that I spent some time thinking about the figure and how not to make it too monolithic. And I have a long way to go, but because I feel like there's some rigidity here that I want to get rid of. But I'm going to go to first notes. And first notes is when we change a few things. I'm going to go over, the best way to approach this, I'm going to go over, oh, Jen, I noticed that I have a different microphone. No. Well, hold on 1 second. I think, no, you cannot, right? Okay, never mind. Sorry. Sorry.
Okay, can anyone else hear? Yeah.
Okay.
We're all good.
You can hear me.
Yes, it's strange that you can't hear me. I'm assuming you cannot hear me. And now I can't hear you. Oh no. Okay, Julio, we cannot hear you now.
Sorry, I'm just testing the microphone. It's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't accidental.
Oh, okay. Wait, but you can hear me, yeah?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, good.
For some reason, I don't know why. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, let me see, because there's a better microphone. Hold on. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh. Okay. Oh my gosh. Laura. Yeah. All right. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. She had to leave.
Yes. I hope that everything's going to be okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna continue with my first notes. Yes. So first notes, I'm gonna reapply. I'm gonna work on the layer that I have here. I'm gonna build on the layer that I have here. And second note, I'm sorry. First notes, it's an opportunity to do a few things. It's an opportunity first to study the color of the palette that I'm gonna use. So definitely, I'm just gonna do some testing. I'm gonna work darker to lighter. I'm gonna work on opacity. That's another thing. I'm just gonna build the opacity that I have. And then finally, I'm gonna work on the drawing aspects. Some of the edges I'm gonna make more defined or move around. So a few things. The most important for me has become the study of the color palette. And then I would say in a second position would be the reassessing of the edges of the lines. So I'm going to go darker to lighter, and I'm just going to do a couple of things. I want to get the color of the face, because I feel like I just used raw umber, but I just want to get a color of the face. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to start with raw umber. I'm guessing right now, raw umber and burnt sienna. And I'm going to apply it right on top. I think value-wise it works, but I'm going to bring some blue right here. Oops, no blue. More burnt sienna because it's much redder. There's certainly some purple. I think that's okay. So I'm not afraid because I love that color, but I'm going to bring the quinacridone. Quinacridone red. Is it red? Quinacridone red that I have. It's a great color. We discovered so many things during this past quinacridone violet. Yeah, quinacridone violet. Any quinacridone, I would say. But we have just discovered how great the quinacridones could work for skin color, any skin color. So yeah, quinacridone, it's a great color. And I'm gonna bring, that looks good. Maybe some chromatic black to tone it down. I'm just gonna move this. I wanna study the color just because this is an opportunity for me to practice. This is way too dark. So I'm gonna bring some of the pink to lighten it up. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. A little bit more quinacridone. I think I'm just gonna settle with this. Maybe more quinacridone. I'm gonna settle with this right now. Yeah, maybe some gray. There's way too much saturation. I think that's, ooh, that's too light right now. I just messed it up. Actually, no, I think that's good. All right, so essentially what I'm doing is I'm studying the color, because I know that if I just rely on what I think the color should look like, I'm just gonna mix a few tones and I may not get there. There's something about the sophistication and complexity of the palette that I don't get with colors that are too approximate to the color or the paint coming out of the tube. So I enjoy really studying the tones and color without, in a way that I don't have to actually add something here and then feel like I need to change it. So I can just do the experimentation and exploration beforehand. And I realized that there are three, I would say four major components. And by the way, it's just going from point A to point B color-wise, meaning having some colors at the beginning and trying to go to a specific color label or hue, it may take different paths. So it's not like a mathematical thing that you can repeat every single time. So in addition to that, it also has to do with how you see color. So the more you practice observation, the more you're gonna have an idea of what colors may be part of that mixture. So putting it all together, I noticed and I realized that this is not brown, that there is some lavender, there's some purple, there is some pink in it. We've done a couple of sessions in which we have painted figures with different skin tones, and that gave us the opportunity to understand that the skin tone is much more sophisticated than what it looks, and we have to make an effort not to end up painting the same skin tone on every single figure because there's that risk. So based on all that, I realized that I'm gonna have to have a combination of raw umber, burnt sienna, and quinacridone violet in order to create something that's similar to that. I'm gonna go darker to lighter. So I think what I'm gonna do right now, I think I'm just gonna paint the whole thing. some of the oil. I'm using oil right now as a medium, and I'm not using the turpentine. And to darken this purple or this color, I'm going to use um, chromatic black. Let's start by using chromatic black on the spots first of the face. So I'm going to block, color blocking. If you remember, first notes could be summarized or recapped into the expression color blocking. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just color blocking. And the way I'm color blocking, I'm just using these tiny blocks where I see the darker note. I'm not going to be too specific. I think that's okay for now. I realize that I also need to make sure that the face doesn't look too face forward, and I just put it in the kind of like dead center, and there's the nose is off center. So I'm just gonna move the nose a little bit and move the lips. I think that is very important. Okay, and then what? So after that, I think I'm just gonna use the color that I created. And at the same time, I wanna find out the edges. So remember we said first notes, we study, explore, experiment with the color palette. This is the time when we actually start creating our color palette for this painting. So it's a very specific moment. And we do that, I do it with the cellophane, but we could do that experimenting in different ways. And then color blocking darker to lighter. I'm just gonna focus right now on the face. And I'm gonna create a lighter version with pink. And I'm not afraid of this looking like whatever. You know, I know that this is the initial stage, so I'm just going to, and I'm pixelating, by the way. So although this is kind of like part of the second notes, the pixelation part of the second notes. But that's what I'm doing right now. All right, so I'm just gonna continue. And so because it's first notes and I'm not concentrated in one single focal point that I decide, and I have 45 minutes, I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna check in again in 15 minutes or so at 12:30 and find out where I'm at and see if I can move on to second notes. But for now, I'm gonna continue applying the color that I created based on the darker areas that I see. Here we go. And then there is dark blue. So color blocking the ribbon. This ribbon is pretty dark right here. So I'm color blocking the ribbon, imagining that this is black and white. Okay, I don't need the line in the middle. So I'm gonna erase that. Oh, I just like stained something here. It's okay. I think that's okay. And then the green, I'm just gonna bring some green. So my criteria is not to focus on one specific focal point right now. My criteria is to just go darker to lighter. So I started with the face, and then with the hands, and then with the ribbon. And the green is pretty dark right here. So I'm just gonna continue with that. By the way, this weekend, I went to the Hammer Museum to see the Best in LA. It was the last weekend. Oh, there's a pretty dark.
Wait, this weekend is Julio or last weekend was?
Last weekend.
Yeah. Ah, bummer.
Yeah. And it was nice to actually see the MacArthur Park painting. It's really huge. It was interesting. It was beautiful. There were some strange things in the exhibition, but there were also a lot of paintings. So I really enjoy the paintings. But yeah, it was the last time. I think I may need some orange, actually, and I'm gonna bring it. Orange, 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 orange. Oops. Okay, so just checking in, doing first notes. I'm developing the palette. Processing color, bringing two new colors, orange and quinacridone. And I'm just gonna mix the orange with the burnt sienna, because I know it's not like full orange. So here we go. So I've started seeing some images of people attending or going to visit the Van Gogh thingy. So I'm curious. I'm curious. They've been posting some images, and I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm excited about this orange. That feels good. I'm trying to be a little bit loose, but I'm using a reference. So there are many ways of approaching painting. Okay, so sometimes we used visualization. We talked about how sometimes artists imagine the scene, they don't have a reference. And sometimes we use observation. And in this case, I'm using observation just as always. So it's a very specific way of painting, and it's not the only way of painting, obviously. But because I'm using observation, I go back and forth between the reference that I'm using and my painting. And I'm going to use some quinacridone here on this orange. I'm getting into second note territory, but that's okay. I think I have like 5 minutes or so. Let's just do something that really is going to be very helpful, and that is the actual background. And I'm going to mix blue and chromatic black, just because want something dark. And I'm going to start applying here maybe some Renaissance-like tricks. Like I'm going to say chiaroscuro, although it's looks far from it. But I feel like I want to bring much more darkness on the background and peel off the figure from the space behind it. And I need to work on more layers on the background regardless if I want to do that lighter or darker later or bring different variations. I love doing the swan painting because it allowed us to work on variations on the water to create space. So I think I'm gonna use that experience here. I'm just gonna do the black right now. Black and blue. There's a lot of black on those Caravaggios. Oh, I believe it's Caravaggio, by the way, because someone was mentioning in a conversation the other day that Caravaggio didn't, the way Caravaggio painted, he didn't use a very specific drawing. Let me just kind of like rephrase that. Most painters spend time with a drawing until it was sort of like perfect to their eyes, and then they moved on to painting. But Caravaggio sort of like started like directly almost. So the reason why they know that it's because when they do the X-rays, they don't see any drawing lines underneath those paintings. He started like without sketches, I guess. He also was very OCD about his paintings. Once he started a painting, he just focused and worked long hours until he finished it. So he didn't have this approach in which you do a layer, you let it dry for 2 weeks, and then you go to the next layer. No. He started a painting. I mean, and this sort of like conforms or connects with his own personality because he was all over the place. Temperamental. That's a very nice word to say. Completely out of control. So he painted in a similar manner. Nothing prepared, very much on the spot. And I find that really interesting because we always think of Renaissance painters like Leonardo da Vinci, who spent like 27 years reworking Mona Lisa, and then he died and it wasn't finished. It's an unfinished painting. And that's the idea that we all have, you know. Not Caravaggio. It's nice to hear that, if you ask me. Yeah, I think so. Just gonna, I said, well, I have a couple of minutes. I don't know if I'm not gonna be hard on myself. So if this is what I'm gonna get, that's it. I'll do this area and then I'll move to second notes. How's that? I think that's good. If you haven't painted in a few days or a few weeks, you most likely you're gonna find yourself a little rusty because even when you skip a few days, it doesn't feel the same. I feel like there's a catch-up time. So don't be too hard on yourselves if you feel like, you know, This is very hard. Or it feels very hard. Okay, so yeah, it's not too bad. Like this whole thing about drawing from an indirect space. This is a good example of how it works and why it works. So still first notes, but I'm working on edges. I moved away from working on studying the color, and right now I'm just working on the negative space so I can get the edges more defined. All right. Jen, Caravaggio, what was the time that he was born and then he died? The year?
Let's see. He was born in 1571 and he died in 1610. So that's 29 plus 10, so 39 years old.
Oh, wow. Jeez. Yeah, so that is pretty much towards the end of Renaissance. So maybe there was some kind of like Baroque things going on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
It says periods he's involved in, this is according to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Is Baroque, Italian Baroque painting, Renaissance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I think I am going to, and how about, I forgot her name, the Renaissance painter, the acquisition of the Lagma. Oh my gosh. I should know that, and I don't. What was her name?
A female?
No.
Oh.
The Renaissance painter, the female Renaissance painter, the Getty, the Lucrezia, the painting Lucrezia that the Getty just acquired. And the artist name, I forgot. If you can, it's okay. Anyhow.
How do you spell Lucrezia, Leo?
Lucrecia. And while you do that, I am going to move on to second notes. And Artemisia, yes. I think it's Artemisa or Artemisia. The last name, I don't even.
All I have is Rembrandt. Hold on.
Artemisia Gentileschi.
Yes, okay. I just found it.
Awesome.
As you said.
And she was born.
Oh yeah, gosh, it's beautiful.
Later. She was born later than Caravaggio. So she's a little bit, she was contemporary.
Yes. So it says the work is believed to date from the late 1620s. So yeah, after.
Okay. But her work is freaking amazing. Yeah. Her work is freaking amazing. A lot of self-portraits, which was very interesting. And a lot of work, I have to say. Oh my gosh, this Mary Magdalene in ecstasy. Come on! You need to upload it.
Okay, hold on.
Mary Magdalene in Ecstasy by Artemisia Gentileschi. And she was born, where was she born? What city? Florence? No. Doesn't say. She was raped? Wait, yeah. Oh, no, 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 no. That's a painting. Oh my gosh. Rome. Okay.
Oh, wow. It's beautiful.
She took inspiration from the innovations of Caravaggio, from which he derived the habit of painting real models without idealizing or sweetening them, and indeed transfiguring them into a powerful and realistic drama. Her father was a painter. Yeah, so, and he was also influenced by Caravaggio. Anyhow, so I think they're incredible. I mean, Judith, the paintings of Judith with the head in the basket, come on. Judith and her maidservant. Good job, Artemisia. Good job. Yeah.
Good job.
A lot of Judith, she was on it. A lot of Judith paintings.
Okay, who's Judith? I don't know
Judith,
this
it's
name.
like a biblical figure that chopped off someone's
Oh.
head.
Oh gosh.
So obviously, she
Bible.
you painted this a few times.
Love it.
Yeah, so amazing. Amazing. Anyhow, so all right. Second notes. Pixelation. So I'm going to go over. So the most important thing here with second notes is that I get to decide which area I want to prioritize and I want to do first, because the application is the same or similar to first notes in the sense that I'm going to go darker to lighter. But with second notes, I get to widen the spectrum of value, and then also decide which area I'm going to start with, or which area is going to have a little bit more definition. So I think for sure, I think I'm just going to do the face. So I'm just going to go ahead, and maybe after that, I'll do the hands. So that's going to be my strategy. So I have my small brush, and I need a smaller brush. And I'm going to go back to the area of the face, and this time I'm going to try to see if I can widen the spectrum of values. And I'm going to do that by using a little bit of stippling. So kind of like tiny brush strokes applied on top. So darker to lighter. Darker to lighter. And I'm gonna use a little bit of color here, because there were like some descriptions about Renaissance paintings being a little bit more desaturated. And then when the Baroque hits, the colors start popping. So maybe these darker values could have a little bit of color. So I'm gonna amp up the quinacridone. Oh my gosh. A little bit on those skin tones. So darker to lighter. So I'm just gonna start with the iris. The iris on the portrait's really dark. It's a darker area. And then the eye line. So without trying, yeah, I think that's good. Ooh, very good. So I'm just gonna continue, and then I'm gonna work on the bottom of the nose, also very dark. And then the line between the lips, also very dark. So I'm doing second notes, focusing on an area that I wanna develop a little bit further. Okay, and then I'll bring some darker notes with a medium brush. I'm gonna work with bone structure. So I'm gonna try to enhance the darker areas first, darker to lighter, because I know that if I do lighter first and then, God forbid, I wanna change it, it's just gonna give me a hard time. The paint's gonna give me a hard time. So stippling, it's not a bad idea rather than dragging the brush. Okay. And then I'm gonna bring some lighter notes with the pink, some reflections. Let me see if I can do that. Especially on the nose, and definitely okay. A small brush, and I'm gonna bring some highlights on the lips, above the lips. And on the bottom lip. Okay, so I will, with a dry brush, I'm gonna try to blend a little bit. Here we go. With a dry brush, a little blending. I think that's working. I think that's working. Bottom lip. And some highlights for now on the nostril. She has a gold ring on one of the nostrils. So I'm not gonna do that now, but I'm just seeing it right now. It's just trying to capture that expression. I think that's okay for now. Edges, edges, edges. I'm gonna go to the edges and then just bring some highlight. I think that's gonna help me because the light direction comes from different places. And some highlights on the lid. Yeah, let me just bring some. Okay, and then some darker notes on the ear. Did you find the Lucrezia painting? Yeah?
Yeah. I found it, I posted it, and I posted some more.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Did you find the Judith?
Oh, well, no, I didn't post that one because you'd already posted that one, right? Oh, no, you haven't.
I haven't.
Okay, I'll post that. So, yeah, I found the Mary Magdalene in Ecstasy, the Judith, and then one more called Susanna and the Elders. But I'll post the
Mary Magdalene in Ecstasy. I have never seen a painting like this.
It's beautiful. I feel like the capturing that I did of it isn't quite as amazing.
No, say that again?
Because it's off the internet.
Oh.
So it probably isn't as, it doesn't show how beautiful it is, but hopefully people will get a sense of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just so bonkers that she has been such an obscure figure of Baroque painting up until current times. I hope that she was successful during her lifetime, at least, or recognized. I'm just going to continue with right. I need the dioxazine. I think it's dioxazine purple. Dioxazine purple. It's in the red. Yeah, because I need to work on that. Yeah, it's definitely is it dioxazine? I think so. A tiny bit of dioxazine. We're never gonna finish this tube. I can tell you that. This purple. I'm gonna mix it with some blue. I think it needs a little bit of blue. So my challenge right here, I have a challenge, and that's the fact that the actual face is very small compared to the format. So I think that's okay. I realize of that right now. I should have probably thought of it as a criteria. when I was sketching and see if I really wanted it or not. Because I realized that the most important focal point, which is her face, it's a really small part of the painting. And that's okay. That's okay. Doing the edges to kind of like bring the light from behind. And I need to bring some, I'm not gonna bring green because we have yellow and maybe a different kind of green, but I'm just gonna do the green with yellow and black, which works so well. And then I'm just gonna work on the edge. And time-wise, yeah, I have like, we have time, 20 minutes. Yellow and black. Yeah, it's a different kind of green, but that's okay. I'm just gonna do this. I need to test this green because this green is totally different. Doesn't have that much yellow in it. And the yellow and black may not be it. Yeah, how am I gonna make this green? I have no idea, but I'm just gonna bring the greens and the blues. And we have a green. Permanent green. I don't know if that's gonna be the green, but I think that looks more like it. Permanent green. Yeah, I think so. With some gray to desaturate it. I think so. It's a little, it's okay. So second notes, I'm working on one very small part of the painting. I'm just gonna work on this and then move to the hands. I feel like this could have been a little bit bigger now that I see this, but I think that's okay. I think that's good. Yeah. I'm gonna bring some of the skin tone and then bring some highlight on the chin. And I want to work on the color palette of the face, but I'm just gonna keep it like that. All right, so I'm happy with my first pass at second notes on the face. I think that looks okay. And then I'm gonna concentrate the rest of the time on the hand and the flowers. So I think that's gonna be my strategy. Perfect. Yeah, and again, this is about incorporating some elements that we could discuss. I'm not sure how much of the criteria we talked about is incorporated here. Maybe just a high contrast. This kind of like chiaroscuro. Maybe I just need to make it darker and lighter. Haven't used a lot of white here, but that could be a good, maybe just bring a little bit more contrast later on the face to create more dramatic. I think that's what I'm gonna do also. Yeah, I think so. All right, I'm just gonna go to the hand. Okay. So lighter. There's a different skin tone right here. So I'm doing the separation of the fingers in a very, yeah, in a very simplified way. I'm not gonna try to bring a ton of definition here, but since I have a lot of dark, I'm just bringing highlights to kind of like shape up the, and this one right here, to shape up the structure or the form of the hand. Still second notes. This is all second notes work. I'm gonna increase some darkness. So the idea of high contrast. And also right here. And make it a little bit darker even. Here we go. A little bit darker. So yeah, the hands, you know, the most expressive part of a figure after the face. So this in itself is a form of portraiture, if you think about it. And I'm gonna bring some orange to the highlight of the hand. Stippling, meaning like not dragging the brush too much. I think that's okay. And I'm gonna try to work from the outside now. See how that's gonna work out. There's some wrinkle things. And this is a little bit lighter. I'm gonna bring a little bit of a lighter reflection underneath the hand. Okay, just also, we talk about how during this stage, we can start closing some gaps between brushstrokes. So I think that could be a good, this could be a good time to do so. So I'm gonna practice and study the color of the shadows underneath. Here we go. And see. Okay, and a little bit of chromatic black. Let me see. No, that was too much chromatic black. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's getting out. Whoa, no, 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 some white. Okay, a little bit of black. Nope. Just gonna try one more time. I'm gonna try one more time. Maybe just bring some burnt sienna here. Okay, I got a tone. Okay, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. I just needed to bring some burnt sienna because I was going all over the place. Okay. And some quinacridone. I'm gonna use this. It's not the exact, but I like this shade. So the idea here is to just work with the shadow that separates one sleeve from the other sleeve. And I'm doing this because I just talked about closing the gap. And I needed to clarify this part of the figure. So I did a little bit of study of the mixture of colors that I needed for that shadow. And then I proceeded to apply it on the arm below. The arm over has a little less of that color. So I'm just gonna block it. I'm flickering my eyes back and forth all the time because I'm doing kind of like the wrinkles. And I'm gonna bring some white because I need a lighter version. I need a lighter version. And then again, stippling, if you drag your brush too much, it's gonna have a very flat look. I think that's okay. I think that's okay. Closing the gap, very important. I'm gonna use a small brush and see if I can bring some lighter tone. And kind of like exaggerate the wrinkle right here, even though it's not. I think so. Okay, just kind of like doing some detail work, but I'm happy about closing the gaps on the sleeve so I get this idea that the arms are crossed. And I think that's super important also conceptually. I'm gonna bring some white, stark white on this, I think it's her face mask. It's a face mask. Oh, wow. So she removed her face mask to do this. That's pretty amazing.
Leo.
I'm sorry?
You're right. It's her face mask.
Wow. I am so happy to do this. I'm so happy to do this. That is like 2021 right here encapsulated. Okay, so just continuing and just creating some highlights, unevenness, making sure this is a little bit too regular. I need to work on that. And now that I sort of like found this piece of information, 2 hours essentially, just gonna do 5 more minutes. I am gonna put a little bit more intention on that part of the painting. So darkening this area. And also creating a little bit of highlight here. Because it's an important piece. Yeah, Okay, so I am going to mix some blue and pink because there's a lot of lavender in the white. Oh my gosh, there's so much work to do, but that's okay. And for sure, for the flowers, let me see. Okay, I am gonna work on the green, I think. All right, so, and for that, I'm gonna use the yellow and black. For sure. Chromatic black and yellow makes the best green. So some, again, because it's very dark, I'm just doing some highlights. And then, yeah. At the bottom of her palm, it's much darker. So I need to bring some dark notes. So all second notes work right here to create the hollowness of the palm. I'm simplifying because everything's very tiny. Yeah, everything's very tiny. And at the same time, I just realized that I have to move like other things. The palm of the hand goes over. So let me just see if I can move this. And then the bouquet, it's a little bit longer. So I'm just gonna move the end of the bouquet and close some gaps. I'm gonna close some gaps. The sleeves are wrinkled right there, and there's a little bit too much of a regular edge. Stippling without dragging the paint too much. If you drag the paint too much, then it's just gonna smear too much and you're gonna create very regular strokes. Okay, here we go. There's a cast shadow on the ribbon. So I'm just gonna do that. And the ribbon has a cast shadow and the ribbon is like laid over the sleeve, not just right behind it. So let's just do that. A little bit of lighter blue on the reflection of the ribbon. I may need to work with a different blue right there, but I think that's okay. And then closing gaps, I'm gonna bring the blue a little further so I can close a few gaps right there. There's blue also outside of the flower, sunflower. And I'm gonna bring some white in there. With some gray for the cast shadow. I think that's good. Some of the green. Okay, so I think I'm gonna pause here. I feel like I need to work a lot more. I would probably just work on the metal next and then on the torso. and I need to expand the dark. I think that's just gonna, I'm glad about the landscape orientation. I think that's interesting, but yeah, I'm just gonna continue working on it. It's just spending a little bit more time. So proposal 10, I mean, I'm sorry, 120. Let's meet again at 120. We're gonna stop the recording, stretch, make sure you stretch. Oh my gosh, it's probably very tight, your shoulders, and hydrate. That's what I'm gonna do. Use the restroom and then have a bite. 10 minutes will fly. In the meantime, before you do all that, you can just do a few more brush strokes, or you can take a picture and upload it on the folder. I'm gonna take a picture of this and upload it, and then we'll just have a chat, but it will not be recorded. So looking forward to seeing you at 1:20.